We're going to take a few shortcuts now. I'm not going to be playing around with every bus. The idea of this was to find a bus at a bus stop and to produce its route. We know, looking at this, that we've got a bus stop and we've got several buses, different buses, arriving at different times, departing at different times. What I'm going to assume is that in the list that I've got, the first item is the next bus at that bus stop, and we're going to find the route for it. As that bus goes, the next item a bit later on in the day will appear in that list. It's a big leap of faith. I'm hoping that the departures are ordered in that fashion, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't detract from what we do. If it's not the case, then the programming is a little bit more complicated, and we'll lose the overall gist of what we're doing. And what we're doing is just trying to produce a route. We're trying to use all of the APIs. I'm not really interested too much in exact buses. We want to do that, then I'll sit down, design it, have a look at the data and work it out. But for our purposes, we just want to have a route from a particular bus stop for the next bus that's there. So having said that, I need to come back to my service, and what I'm going to do is now extract the data for all of my service. I'm going to populate my service data dictionary with information from the particular bus. So let's go through that. So what I need to do is set up my dictionary, service data. Let me just copy this to make it a little bit easier. I don't have to keep typing it out. So I am going to first of all find the line number. I know I've got the line numbers here, 3530, 3531, but what I'm going to do is actually pull out that line number there and store that as the line. You could call it bus number if you wanted to. I'm just going to call it line, and that is going to be equal to my number. So that is the 4 buses. What I want to do is find out where it's going to, and that is the direction there. I'm going to call that an endpoint. So I'm going to get the endpoint. So I'm going to call it endpoint. Again, you can call it destination, whatever you want to call it. And endpoint. And that's going to equal. Now that's going to equal, I'm going to have to go through all of this process. So I'm going to start off with departures. So that is departure at the bus. Okay, if we remember, num is all of these bus values, and when we get there, so I've now got, let's say I'm on 23, the first thing I see is that I've got an array of dictionary values. So I'm going to choose the first one, 0, and I'm going to get the direction from that. So there's my endpoint. Now I'm going to be doing that with all the information that I want from here and not include everything. I just want to cherry pick the information. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm just going to change it for information that I need. So I want to know who the operator is. That is very important because I need that to pass to my bus route. So I need the operator from that. And I also need, well, I'm going to get the operator name because that might be useful to display to the user. Now, I do know that if there is not an operator name, this returns a value of none. And that could be useful because if this is none, then there is no bus route associated with it. It will not give us a bus route. So I can use the fact that operator name is none so that I don't try to print out a route and end up giving myself an error in my program. I'm going to want the direction, which I've got, but I'm going to call mine direction, and this is going to be either inbound or outbound, and that is just the dir. So I know whether it's going inbound or outbound, which is also required by the other API. So I'm going to call that direction. I've made that distinction with that one being the endpoint there. And I'm going to try and use the date as well. So let's pick up the date. And the time, so I can actually pass those values in rather than just leave them blank if I need to. So I've got actual timings from the bus, from the bus stop. Okay, so let's make sure that's date and time. Date, and I don't have a time. What I do have is this one here. Notice that expected departure date is null, expected departure time is null, but I do have an aimed departure time. So instead of just calling that time, I need to call that aimed departure time. It's a timetable, don't forget, so this is where I'm pulling the information from. So now I've got all the information that I want. I've extracted the data from each departure for a particular bus stop. So I really need to create my service now. So my service for a particular bus stop is the service data. Now, I've done something a little bit crafty there, because at no point did I mention a dictionary called service. So I will come back to that shortly. Now that I've got all of this information, I'm not returning anything from this one, I'm just extracting that. And this is going to be important. So I'm going to save that, we're going to stop the video and move on to the next part.